Thank you, Charles, for sharing your gift today. I don't know, when Charles is here, I feel like we've already been to church. So we're moving into the second part of this Avatar series, where we're taking a look at what I call this golden thread of truth that goes through all of human spiritual consciousness. Because I started last week with this very thought, that if God is truly omnipresent, omniscience, all wisdom present everywhere, then it needs to show up in all the truth teachings and the enlightened beings through time. And if it does, then it adds to our faith, it adds to our confidence that as we can see these light beings that came along through time and were able to teach us things, it's like, wow, it starts to put together in a level of confidence that we are on the right path. We're on the beam, so to speak. Last week, we studied Shankara, 1,200 years ago, who taught the yoga of non-dualism. Yoga means union with God. Through non-dualism is what? Oneness. And when I started with him is because he had the audacity to call his teaching exactly what it was. A union with God through oneness. I think it's what all of us on this path are looking for. 1,200 years ago. And at the very end of his teaching, and remember, he only lasted 32 years on this planet. I called him a child prodigy. Anyone at 8 years old that can teach the Vedas in Sanskrit at 8 in the temple comes as a prodigy, I would say. Think back to when you were 8. And what I love about him is he ended in his 32 years and he summed all of his teachings up with this one statement right at the end. I am he. No different than what we saw King David say in the Psalms, that it is written, ye are God, little g, or followed on by the master teacher Jesus 2,000-3,000 years later, it says the same thing. It has been written that ye are God within. So we're going to go back even further now. And this was in India. We're going to go to China. Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu lived somewhere between 500 and 550 BC, 2,600 years ago. Almost 1,300 years before Shankara. And when you think about where India was and China at that time, these were so separated that the only way that I can see this wisdom and this truth came, it had to be a download from the divine. But Lao Tzu was an interesting person. He was the record keeper for the king. Some people say he may have been a librarian, some could have said he's the keeper of the history books or whatever. But through his keeping of the books for the king, this wisdom that he had began to develop through him. And at one point, he tried to teach it to the people. And at some point, he got so disgusted, he threw up his hands and says, I'm done. They want to continue to keep living the way they are. I'm out of here. And he got on the water buffalo and was riding out of town. Never to be seen again. Now, the myth is that he lived another 1,200 years in the northern mountains of China. Who's going to prove that? Makes a good story. But on the way out, the gatekeeper said, wait a minute, I've been hearing what you've been teaching, and it's so powerful. Would you please write down your wisdom before you ride into the woods? And he did. He wrote the Tao Te Ching. Some say he didn't, just like some said, we have differences who wrote the Old Testament. But the key was we ended up with this wisdom, this truth of 81 verses. I always admire the genius that can get this into this. Right? 500 pages into 81 verses. And I've been reading these 81 verses now for probably 20 years. And every time I read them, there is something else in them. So I would invite you, it's a small book. And you can get them very inexpensively today. It's something you want to have, and what I do with it is every once in a while I just open it up and read a verse. And it's like, wow, I never remembered that back then. But in the Lao Tzu Ching, and it became called Taoism, and remember we talked about this last week. Jesus was not a Christian. Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. Lao Tzu wasn't a Taoist. But in there is some remarkable wisdom we're going to take a quick look at today. A message of peace for the world, but a message for peace for you and I within. Resilience. How do we stay on the water buffalo? How do we stay on the path that we want to get to a better place? And then living in harmony with life while we're here. Again, not waiting till you die and then go to the pearly gate somewhere up in the sky. That was not taught 2,600 years ago, and it wasn't taught 2,000 years ago, and it's not taught today here. Heaven on earth now is what we're looking for, and what has been taught for all these years. So let's get started. Lao Tzu says, and I don't know about you, but this has been true for me. Not all spiritual paths lead to the harmonious oneness. Have you found that to be true for you? Yeah, it's true. This was true 2,600 years ago. Indeed, most are detours and distractions, nothing more, he said. If you get a sense for him as we start, he can somehow condense it down and then it'll lop you upside with a V8 kind of moment, right? And we're going to see what he said. So we're going to take 10 lessons today, because in the 81, there's so many lessons that I thought we needed to somehow find a way to focus. Number one lesson, he says, look within and you will find everything you need. We've been looking for love in all the wrong places, right? Look within, everything you and I need is there. This is not new teaching. This is not new thought. This is old thought. But how many of us don't go there first? See what else he said. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. What someone else is doing is none of my business. Mastering myself is where true power comes through. At the center, I love this one. At the center of your being, you have the answers. You know who you are, and you know what you want. You know who you are, and you know what you want. How many of us say, I just can't figure out my divine purpose? And we spend our lives going down rabbit trails and say, I just can't figure all this out. Lao Tzu said 2,600 years ago, you know. Listen. Ask. Within, not out. We've all seen the Tai Chi ball. And what I love about this teaching is the Tai Chi ball, the yin and the yang, happens in the physical. This is where we have the opposites of pairs of opposites. The yang being the doing part, the external, the masculine energy, we all have it. And the yin being the within, the quietness of the internal, the feminine energy. But it's only when they come in balance do we have harmony. What happens when your wheel's out of balance? It makes funny noises and you go off the path, right? But what's so interesting about Taoism is they teach that as you bring the yin and the yang into balance and harmony in your life, you begin to transcend that and move into Wu Chi. Wu Chi is no pairs of opposites. It's pure consciousness. Shankara called it last week bliss. Jesus called it heaven, harmony. But Wu Chi is a place where we don't have any negatives. There is no positive negative. There is no illness and health. That's in the yin and the yang of the physical. But as we bring it, and we have to bring it back into harmony, as we do, we transcend that into Wu Chi. Number 2 lesson, by letting go, you become free. Have you found this to be true? When you let go of something you've been chewing on like a bone, what happens? Freedom. You let it go. By letting go, you become free. By holding it tight, what happens? You're in burden, you're imprisoned by what? Your own mind. By letting it go, it all gets done. This runs 180 degrees against everything you and I have been taught in this country, has it not? Those who work so hard and strive and sweat and set those goals and knock them down, and everybody else on the way, they're the ones who succeed. Lao Tzu said, no, you got to go within. Let it all go. The world is won by those who let go, but when you try and you try and you strive and you strive, the world is beyond your winning. Why? Striving pushes it away, does it not? When you sit and get quiet and let go, it comes to you. Lao Tzu said, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Now we're talking again back to yin and yang. We're talking about the feminine and the male energy. When we're doing, external, striving, very male energy. When we get quiet and we go inside, let go of all of that. We begin to become what we might be. And if we are children of God, that's who we become as we let it go. Bless you. You are blessed. Enlightenment means to lighten the burden of life in this world and to lighten the darker aspects of human character. There's a lot of people who have defined enlightenment in a lot of kind of obtuse, abstract ways. What I love about Lao Tzu is he says, no, it's about the light overcoming the dark. How do you get there? You go inside and let go. And that light that begins to emanate from you, the song we sang in the very beginning, go out and shine. This world needs your light today. And so do all of us around you. But that's enlightenment, is allowing that divine light within to come forth and straighten the narrow, crooked way into the straight way. He said how to do this. By observing within yourself these 3 main human entanglements. And I could put ego here if you like. And here's the ones. He said the need for other people's recognition of you. Do you have a need to be liked by everyone? Or do you have a need to let go and settle in? Feel the peace within you coming up. My peace, not the peace you're trying to generate within yourself. My grace is sufficient. The need for security, whether it's money, whether it's jobs, whether it's external to all of what you are inside, these are the appearances and not the truth of who and what you are. And finally, the need for control. Has anyone ever come to the realization it's out of control? You gotta let it go. It is what it is. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And out of that is where the peace comes. And everything begins to happen. You ever notice that when you let go, it begins to line up almost in its own way? He who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. Do you know that you're enough? You and I are enough. What happens when you drop that? What happens when you drop this thought that I have to be that? That's not understanding that you are enough. What gets us in so much difficulty in our humanness is expectations. And it's expectations of others. This person should be like that. When we start shooting on ourselves, first we should on them, and then we should on ourselves because we should be like this. That is not being enough. Enough is I'm enough, just as I am in this moment in time. And what needs to come will come. Letting go at a different level. Number 3, let go of your labels if you truly want to know yourself. Do you all know that you labeled yourself? We labeled ourselves on the way in here today. How? I am whatever that label is. You're the only person who can do that. Lao Tzu said, let go of all the labels of yourself. The only place I know where you can do that is deep within yourself. Because out in here in the circumference is labels upon labels upon labels. And we know scientifically we gave those labels by the time we were 7. And we keep repeating those labels and we manifest whatever those labels were. He's saying, no, let go of the label. Let yourself be okay with exactly where you are at this moment. Labels are what you call yourself in your head. Release these labels, then you're free to be present to what is. Do you ever notice in the present, in the now, everything is okay? You're okay, I'm okay. Everything else seems to be okay. But it's when we get out of the present with either the future or the past, we begin to look at things a little sideways. When you look at that little picture that I'm showing there of Lao Tzu, if you notice he's on the water buffalo cocked sideways. And the meaning that he gave to that was the water buffalo was life. And he said instead of sitting there staring straight ahead going, oh my God, what's coming next? He said, get sideways and just kind of let it flow. And that was his word. Let the flow occur. And that's why you see him cocked a little bit on all those pictures. By the time we get to the end of his teaching, you're going to see him get on this water buffalo differently. And I love this visual because letting it flow, letting yourself be okay with no other expectations than in this moment in time, it's all good. Lao Tzu said this, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Every minute of every day, our thoughts and our words are creating our character. And our character determines what's coming next for you on the flow. What you talk about, what you think about, what you do, builds your character. And that character is what's bringing the next eternal now to you. 2,600 years ago. There is no new thought here. This has been known to those in the world who wanted to take it in and make a change. Because we can change our character by watching what we think, what we say, and what we do. This is no different than the law of karma, right? Or in the Bible, you reap what you sow. Or in psychology today, the law of cause and effect. Many, many different words for it, all meaning the same. You and I determine our character. You and I determine what's coming into the next now. Number 4, pay no attention to evil and it will crumble away. How much time do we spend on what's wrong, what's bad, or what's evil? You ever notice evil, if you turn it around, it means live? Pay no attention, and it crumbles. Why does it crumble? Because it has no power of its own. It's only given power by you giving it power that this is coming in my life, it's bad, and look out. It had no power, and as soon as you pull it back, it crumbles because it has no power of its own. Give evil nothing to oppose, and it will disappear by itself. This is a very powerful slide because as soon as we stop giving it notice, it goes away. It disappears into the nothingness that it truly is. Jesus said it this way, resist not evil. This, after forgiveness, I believe, is one of the hardest teachings he gave. It's the hardest teaching to implement. This, when you put up your sword, resist not evil, is a teaching, as I said the other day. How many times do we have Christian churches in the United States praying for terrorists? That's what this is about. Put up the sword, resist not, pray for your enemies. That's the teaching we don't want to hear from the master teacher. It was being taught 2,600 years ago. Do not give any energy to evil. And Shankara said it this way, give no energy to Maya or the illusion of evil. Again, time and time and time again, we're seeing these enlightened teachers teaching us these keys. Number 5, kindness and compassion will always win in the end. This is not what we've been taught in America, is it? No. The end justifies whatever means you want to get there. Is not this teaching. Kindness and compassion, again, we go back to what Jesus taught 2,000 years ago. Pray for those who persecute you. Pray for those who despise you. He's saying the same thing here. Kindness and compassion, no matter what someone does to you, will always win in the end. The light always overcomes the darkness. Kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. How did you create love this week? And I love the way he turned it into a verb for us. We want to receive love. You got to give first, which is exactly in alignment with what Jesus taught. It's better to give than to receive. So we have to give out kindness to create love. Someone says to me, well, I'm not feeling the love. What kind of kindness did you give? And you're going to see the flip. Lao Tzu, the other thing I was always attracted to him is how he used nature to describe these things. He said this, we want to be in our lives exactly like the river. Give unconditional kindness and compassion like the river does. The river never judges the people sitting on the riverside. It gives nourishment, it gives water, it gives coolness to everyone. And then it flows on down the path. Doesn't get into this judgment of does this person really deserve my nurturing? No, he's not doing that. He's just flowing with the river. And you're giving it unconditionally to everyone that you come in time. Unconditional kindness and unconditional compassion. Number 6. Oh boy. Be yourself without caring what others think. Were we taught this one? Nope. Look at the follow-through. Care about what other people think and you will always be their prisoner. Give it no mind. Give it no mind. If you're staying centered, if you know that you're enough, and someone thinks you're not enough, it's none of your business. It's their business. And we just saw how they're going to build their own karma for whatever they want to bring the judgment against you. Resist not, step back. Let it be okay, whatever their opinion is. I say to many people that I coach, I said, I give the value of their opinion for what I paid for it. And have you ever noticed that most of them are for free? Give no mind to it. Let it be. It's their stuff. I don't want to be imprisoned by it. I don't think you do. Drop it. Release it. Number 7, wisdom and strength come from remaining humble. We don't like this word humble, because the word humble in America means that you're a doormat, that you get walked on. This means absolutely nothing about that. This humbleness is what Jesus said, I of myself can do nothing. What do you mean you're going to call me good? I am not good. There's only one good in the universe. That's the level of humbleness that Lao Tzu is speaking of here. Is that me in my ego, in my persona, in my mass, am nothing and can do nothing. But the Father within flows. In the same teaching he's giving here. As we remain humble to that, we open up for the divine to flow through. He calls it the flow. The wise man is one who knows what he does not know. Wise man or woman is the one who knows what they don't know. And those who know do not talk. Those who talk do not know. 2,600 years ago. Wisdom that if we saw in place today, would help every one of us. He who knows others is wise. He who knows him or herself is enlightened. You can see he kept bringing us back to ourselves. Don't get involved in what's in the circumference. Come back to center. That's where the divine is. That's where the truth is. Stay centered there. Number 8, we need this one today. Change is inevitable, so embrace it, even if it seems uncomfortable. We are seeing change at Unity Harrisburg. We're seeing change in Harrisburg. We are seeing change in Pennsylvania. We are seeing change in America. We're seeing change everywhere in this world. And it's happening much faster and much quicker because technology has made this one global economy and people. We're seeing changes at such pace that it's making what? Us uncomfortable. And he said, okay, it's going to make you uncomfortable. Embrace it. You know, the old saying is that there's only one human being that likes change, and that's the baby. They're like, but we have to embrace it because it's coming faster. And let me tell you something, I can't imagine what change looks like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So as we learn to stay centered and begin to embrace the change as it comes, we are going to be in a place to be able to handle the change at all levels. New beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. Anybody experience that in your life but me? Yeah. But that fact that we know that going into it and say, okay, I see what's happening here. We have change happening and we have a new beginning. I love this one. What the caterpillar called the end, the rest of the world calls a butterfly. It happens for us individually, it happens for us as a community, and it will happen for us as a country. If you go forth and shine your light in a country right now that needs that. Number 9, learn to follow first if you wish to lead. I was thinking this week that I would take a couple of these slides and send it to Washington, and I was going to send it to both parties equally. Because look what it says next. If you want to govern people, you must place yourself below them. If you want to lead people, you must learn how to follow them. We are not seeing this today. And it's part of the reason why our Tai Chi ball is not in balance and not in harmony. We only have yang. There's not enough yin in Washington to balance the ball. We are out of balance. Every one of us feels it. We know it. Intuitively, we know it. But this guidance, I love this guidance. And this one, he says, if you're going to govern a great nation, you would do it like you cook a small fish. Don't overdo it. A little bit of hands off. Know that there's a divine flow. Right? It's okay where we are. But let's look at what comes next. And number 10, always go with the flow. Always go with the flow. So now, his water buffalo was his symbol of the flow. And remember, up to now, he was cocked sideways, so he wasn't looking what's coming next and worried about the future. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. Do you really believe that? If you're in the flow, it will be perfect. This is about trust. This is about trust of the divine, that it's flowing through you to get everything needed to be done that needs to be done. This is a hard lesson for us Western Americans. We're scurrying around, got 3 cell phones going and doing all. Relax, breathe. And know that as you center, everything will come in order for you, and you will get it done in much quicker time. They had a saying in Taoism called Wu Wei. This is a very foreign concept for America. But Wu Wei means this: action of non-action. We don't value no action. He's saying is action of non-action is very powerful. Allow yourself to get to that place, and everything else begins to take care. Wu Wei. He calls it the flow. Athletes call it in the zone. The Bible calls it living in grace. It's all the same. It's being in a place where we get our humanness out of the way and we allow the flow, the zone, the grace to flow through us. And we are guided for every detail of life. And it all gets done. He said this at the end: if you correct your mind, the rest of your life falls into place. Sounds like unity. Charles and Myrtle. It's 2,600 years old. Now look at this one. If you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious or fearful, you're living in the future. But if you're at peace, you are living in the present, the eternal now. This moment in time when there's nothing else to be considered. If you do not change your direction, you may end up where you're headed. And finally, the greatest gift you have to give is of your own self-transformation. The greatest gift you have to give the universe. The greatest gift you have to give yourself and everyone around you is for you to transform who you are to the next level of consciousness, whatever that is for you. And at the end of his life, Lao Tzu got on the water buffalo backwards. Now, I had someone say to me, maybe he's staring into the past. When you're in the present moment, the past doesn't exist. He trusted the flow. He trusted divine plan at a level that he could turn around and let it happen. I don't know about you, but this is my goal. To be able to go through life on the water buffalo backwards. Now, I've tried this, and I keep finding myself trying to peek. What's coming next? And he said, no, let it go. turn on the water buffalo and let the flow. I had to put this up because for me, this is the ultimate, what Jesus said, take no thought for your life. Which is, I had a lot of emails after that other Sunday. What exactly does that mean? But this is what I think Lao Tzu was saying. Completely trust at a level that it's all right. It's all perfect. And let it flow. To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. And I thought it was so interesting, this PowerPoint, we're headed into a book study in March. You and I are the universe. But to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Let's go to stillness. As Kate gets ready with the music, just take a couple deep breaths. Allow yourself to get centered. Allow yourself to go to the stillness within. There's one way I know to get in the flow. And that's to ask and believe, and it will be achieved. In the stillness today, if it feels right for you, ask to be in the flow. Or in the zone, or living in grace, ease, and light. Whatever the words work for you. But I love the word flow. Because the word flow connects us back to Genesis and Revelations when it said the river of life flows through you and me. That's the flow for me. And if you're not feeling it, just ask and get quiet and listen. Allow me to feel that divine flow at the center of my being. And so it is.